Hello everyone, Zane here and welcome to another Final Fantasy XIV video. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to play Black Mage. Now this is going to be for beginners only because I only play this job casually ever since UCP has changed it to make it more casual friendly. Now if you guys want something more advanced, there are plenty of YouTubers out there that can help you play Black Mage at a competitive level for Ultimates and or Savage. So we're going to be going over the basics of Black Mage without the Soul Stone first, so 1 through 50, and then we'll go over the more advanced stuff without Drop Stone on. Okay, so Black Mages have two different phases, your Astral, which is the fire, and Umbral, which is the ice. You will spend all your MP in Astral, and then switch over to Umbral to get all your MP back, and get out of that phase faster than a crackhead in a burning building. So let's go over the basics. Level 1 and 2 you get Blizzard and Fire. So Blizzard does 180 potency and gives you 1 stack of Umbral Ice. And then the Fire is the opposite of 180 potency and gives you 1 stack of Astral Fire. So when you use your abilities, those will be right here on your job gauge. When you're doing Ice spells, you'll have 2500 MP restored for the first stack, 5000 for the second stack, and then 10,000 for the third. Let me do one more. And as you can see, the MP on the screen is going down. So that's how much you get back when you have the certain amount of stacks. Next is going to be Transpose. This is what you will use to switch over from Umbral to Astral. Your stacks will go down to 1, and then you must start over again. Just like that. And then you'll switch over to get your MP back. Now, the next ability is going to be your Thunder proc. This is going to appear once you're either in Umbral or Astral, and you don't really have to refresh this until it falls off or new buffs for the party are about to go off. Okay, so you have Thunder 1, and then you have Thunder 2, which is going to be your AoE. So make sure that this is up all the time. Next, at level 12, you get Blizzard 2, which is going to be your AoE Blizzard. Does 80 potency and all enemies nearby it, and grants Umbral Ice 3 and removes Astral Fire if you're in the other elements, because you will be using these abilities to switch over elements instead of using Transpose. So let's get ourselves 3 stacks of Fire and use Blizzard 2. You automatically switch over, and then you get 3 stacks of Umbral Ice, and then you can go ahead and use your Thunder proc. This used to have a timer of when you would be able to use your elements plus thunder, but they removed that to make it a little bit more casual friendly. Next, at level 15, you get Scathe. Do not put this on your hotbar, don't even use it. It's only going to do 100 potency, and you want your MP at full when the tank is done pulling up to the wall in dungeons, so skip it, don't even put it on your hotbar. Next, at level 18, you get Fire 2. This is going to be your AoE Fire, and it has an MP cost of 3000. It's basically the same thing as Blizzard 2, so basically you're going to be using this to swap back and forth in AoE situations. So, let's go ahead and switch over the Ice. And now when you're in Ice phase, you can use Fire 2 for free, since there's no MP cost for the opposite element. And then you can switch and go start doing Fire 2. And you do that at least 3 times in AoE situations. And then you use Blizzard 2 to go right back. And then Thunder 2 for AoE Thunder. Alright, so I think that was the next spell. Yeah, Thunder 2 is next. So both of these are going to be dots. One for single target, and then one for AoE. At level 30, you get Mana Ward. So it creates a barrier that nullifies damage totaling up to 30% of maximum HP for 20 seconds and 120 second recast time. So basically this is a shield that you can put up for yourself so you guys can eat an AoE without really having to move. At level 35, you get Fire 3. This is not something you will spam because the cast time is pretty long. You only use this when Astral Fire gives you the proc, which is Fire Starter, and Fire Starter doesn't happen until level 42. You'll use Fire 3 only to switch over to Fire for single target use if you're in Umbral Ice, so keep that in mind. 1, 2, and 3 does not mean you do 1, 2, and 3. 1 is single target, 2 is AoE, and 3 is single target for, like I said, switching elements and or the Fire Starter proc. At level 50, you have Ethereal Manipulation. Teleport to your party member's side, and it has to be within 25 yalms of your target, and you must be in a party. So basically, the better you know the content, the easier it is to use Ethereal Manipulation. If you have like certain situations where you have a teammate, your teammate will be the focus of Ethereal Manipulation. Usually for me, I use it on the tank because it's next in the party list below me. So getting to that safe spot in situations like an AoE is coming at me, I can move freely with Ethereal Manipulation. Now to get into the Black Mage portion of this video. So level 35, you get Blizzard 3. Kind of works like Blizzard 1, except gives you 3 stacks of Umbral Ice for potency of 290. Level 35 as well, you get Umbral Soul. This should not be used inside a battle unless the enemy has become untargetable. It basically works like Ice or Blizzard 1, except you have to do it 3 times to get the maximum effect. Outside of battle, you get the whole effect with 1 shot. So this is good to restart your MP for your rotation on the next boss or the next set of mobs. Okay, so let's go into Ice first. So if I do Umbral Soul, I get the 2nd stack, and then I'm going to get 3rd. Then when I use it the 3rd time, I get my 3rd Umbral Heart. So this is going to help reduce the MP cost of the next 3 fire spells. Next, at level 40, you get Freeze. Basically, this is going to give you 3 stacks of Umbral Hearts, which is going to reduce the MP cost of your fire spells and Flare by 1/3. So this is going to be your AoE. So level 45, you get Thunder 3, which is upgrade to Thunder 1. So this is going to be your single target buff. At level 50, you get Flare. Now this is kind of a little bit tricky to understand, but Flare uses all your MP. You must have at least 800 or more to use Flare. So it costs 10,000 because that's what I have currently at my max. So this does 240 potency for the first enemy and 30% less for the remaining. Grants Astral Fire 3 and grants 3 stacks of Astral Soul, which is going to be something you learn at the later stages of Black Mage. So this is going to drain all your MP that you currently have. So let's go into battle here with my Ice. Freeze to get your 3 stacks of the Heart. We're going to switch over with Fire 3. Then we're going to use Flare. As long as you have 1 heart, your MP cost will be reduced for Flare, so you can do 2. So that's going to be your AoE situation. So Flare is usually how you end fire phase in AoE fashion. There will be a single target version of that later down the road. Alright, so next you have Ley Lines at level 52. This is going to increase your spell casting while also reducing your auto attack delay by 15% for 20 seconds and has a charge of 2. So basically, you plant it wherever you're at, you'll be able to move it later on, and this is going to jack up your casting speed. So basically you become a rapid fire cannon. Okay, so make sure you know the content before you start putting down your ley lines, because a misplaced ley line can hurt you in the end. Next, at level 58, you get Blizzard 4, which is basically the opposite of Freeze, but for single target use, to give yourself 3 stacks of Umbral Hearts. At level 60, you get Fire 4, which is going to replace Fire 1 when it comes to your spammable fire ability. Alright, so we currently are in the Umbral Ice, so let's get my souls up. So we're going to go into Fire 3, and then you're going to use Fire 4. Now it's usually 1600 NP, but because we have the 3 Umbral Hearts, we get drained down to 800. So basically you're going to use this until you're almost drained of all your NP. Usually you want to do this about 6 times. And then you would use your Flare to end your fire phase. And then you go back into Blizzard 3, and then you do Blizzard 4 for single target, just like you would do Freeze for AoE. So that's Blizzard 4 and Fire 4 in action. At level 62, you get Between the Lines. Basically, this draws you right back into your ley lines. This way you guys can move out of AoEs and then get back into casting while it's still available. So this is going to be a separate action, so it teleports you straight to it. Just like that. That's going to be very helpful when it comes to dodging and of course going back in for certain fights. That costs you to move constantly. Next, you get your upgrade to your AoE Thunder, which is going to be Thunder 4. This is going to do 80 potency damage on hit, and then 35 potency every 3 seconds for 21 seconds. At level 66, you get triple cast. You get to cast 3 times in a row without any cast time, and this is going to last at least 15 seconds, and it gives you 2 charges. Ultimately, you want to use this on your Fire Force spam. So let's go ahead and get into Ice. I'm just going to do this 3 times real quick. And usually you want to use triple cast for movement purposes and or if you have no more ley lines. So 1, 2, and 3. So that's basically how triple cast works. So make sure that you're always using that when you have it available. Our next ability uses these little diamond things here called polyglots. And this is going to be, I think, single target. Or this is AoE. Follow the AoE first. Okay, you get your single target, which is Xenoclasty at level 80. So basically, you need 1 polyglot to use yourself Foul, which is going to tick as you are in battle. So this does 600 potency for the first enemy and 25% less for the rest of the enemies. At level 72, you get your single target Despair, basically the opposite of Flare. Works just the same like Flare, but single target. At level 80, you get Xenoclasty, basically the opposite of Foul, but this is going to be single target for 890 potency, and it costs you 1 polyglot. So when you're in Astral Fire or Umbral Ice, then the timer will start ticking, as you can see there. As long as you're in battle, or outside of battle, that thing will tick as long as you're in a stance. So we're going to let that do its thing while we go into the next abilities. So next we get High Fire 2 at level 82, so basically this is an increase to your Fire 2 spell. At level 82 as well, you get High Blizzard 2, which is basically the buff version of Blizzard 2. At level 86, you get Amplifier. Amplifier gives you a polyglot and is going to cost 120-second recast time, as long as you're in Astral Fire Umbral Ice. So you basically want to use that almost immediately. So Foul and Xenoclasty. Alright, now our next abilities that we have is going to be High Thunder. So this is going to be a buff to your single target. Yeah, so basically that's all it does. High Thunder 2 is for your AoE. So basically it does a little bit more damage than its predecessors. At level 96, you get Retrace. Basically, you get to retrace your ley lines from your original position that you put it there. And this should be put as a secondary. So basically, when you use ley lines, it goes straight into Retrace. And that option is on its ability itself. Action change settings. So enable action change, and then it will switch over to Retrace when you confirm it or use it. Alright, so that's how you use that. So perfect for when you need to move out of an AoE, and then you want to retrace and put your AoE or ley lines on your new position. And at level 100, you get Flare Star. When you use 6 Fire 4s or 2 Flares, you get to be able to use Flare Star. So let's go into Umbral Ice, which I'm already at. We're going to go into Fire 3. We're going to use Flare twice. You get 3. And then 6 stacks after doing it twice, and then you can do Flare Star. And that is going to be your AoE. So ultimately, when you do your 6 fires or 2 flares, you'll end your fire phase now with your Flare Star. At level 90, you also get Paradox, which basically changes Fire 1 and Blizzard 1 into a single target attack, which does 540 potency and gives you a free stack of Fire Starter. I originally thought this was AoE, but come to find out, it's single target. Alright, so we switch over to Ice. You get Paradox, which is for free. And when you switch over to Fire, you get Paradox again. So basically, Fire 1 and Blizzard 1 becomes useless, but only becomes useful for Paradox use, and pretty much that's about it. So basically that is the Black Mage kit in effect. Now let's go over the traits. Aspect Mastery number 1 at level 1 is going to give you 1 stack of Astral Fire Umbral Ice when you use those spells. That's the crystals at the top of your gauge. While under the Astral Fire, your MP cost is going to be doubled, your damage is increased by 40%, and your MP recovery is reduced to 0. Just like the lore, Astral is stagnant while Umbral is passive. If you're in Umbral Ice, you will have a 2500 MP recovery. Your ice spells are reduced to 0, and fire spells are going to be reduced by 10% until you get into Astral Fire, and vice versa. So that is going to increase when you get to Aspect Mastery number 2. Maim and Mend, increase base action damage and HP recovery by 10%, and then 30% at number 2. Aspect Mastery gives you a second stack, and like I said, the damage increased to 60% for fire, and reduction for the other spell is 20%. Umbral Ice gives you 5,000 MP recovery, and then fire spells are reduced by 20% until you get to the opposite. And then Mastery 3, you get your third crystal, so you get maximum. While under the effect of Astral Fire 3, the potency of fire spells is increased by 80%, and the cast time of ice spells is halved and potency lowered by 30%. While under the effect of Umbral Ice, you get all your MP back, and the cast time of fire spells is halved and potency lowered by 30%. And we went over Maim and Mend too. Firestarter basically gives you a free Fire 3, so when you're first starting out, you're just going to be spamming Fire 1, and then Fire 3 when the proc comes out. Level 45, you get Thunder Mastery, upgrades Thunder 1 to Thunder 3, which is a single target. And Nochian at level 56 increases damage dealt by 5% under the effect of Astral Fire Umbral Ice. So basically that clock hand right there is the buff. Once it hits the maximum, it resets and then you get a Polyglot for Foul or Xenoglossy. So next, Umbral Heart at level 58, you get Freeze, Mana Fawn, or Umbral Soul will give you all 3 hearts. Later on, you'll get the Blizzard buff. Level 64, Thunder Mastery 2 upgrades your AoE Thunder to Thunder 4. Enhance Nochian at level 70 grants the effect of Polyglot, which I mentioned earlier, upon maintaining your buff for 30 seconds. Also improves the magic damage from that buff by 10%. At level 78, you get the third buff, or the second enhanced buff, which gives you magic damage increased to 15%. Enhanced Polyglot gives you a second one. Enhanced Foul makes it instant cast. Aspect Mastery 4 upgrades Fire 2, Blizzard 2 to High Fire 2, and High Blizzard 2. Enhanced Mana Font reduces Mana Font recast time to 100 seconds. Enhanced Nochian level 3 improves your damage to 22%. Aspect Mastery 5 adds Paradox, which I'll show you a little bit. Marker to Elemental Gauge. The marker is made active after reaching Astral Fire 3 and swapping to the opposite element. The marker can also be made active after reaching Umbral Ice 3 and gaining 3 Umbral Hearts, then swapping to the opposite element. The marker is made inactive when the effect of Astral Fire or Umbral Ice expires. Fire and Blizzard 1 become Paradox when the Paradox marker is made active. Basically this little diamond right here. So let's go and Swift Cast into Fire and switch over to Ice. As you can see, it lit up, and then Fire 1 and Blizzard 1 changes. So basically Fire 1 and Blizzard 1 basically is just used for Paradox. That's all it does. So Fire 1 becomes useless and Blizzard 1 becomes useless. This becomes a catalyst. Enhanced Mastery Thunder 3 gives Thunder 3 to High Thunder and Thunder 4 to High Thunder 2. Level 94, Enhanced Swift Cast, reduce the Swift Cast to 40 seconds. Enhanced Ley Lines, the effect resets while its effect is active. Well, the location of Ley Lines can be reset while its effect is active. Basically, that's what that does. Enhanced Enochian, number 4, improves magic damage to 27%. Enhanced Polyglot 2 gives you a third one. Enhanced Addle extends duration of Addle to 15 seconds, which reduces magic damage to you from an enemy. And Enhanced Astral Fire grants a stack of Angel Soul upon landing Fire 4 or Flare. Also, immediately cast of Despair becomes available. Okay, I think Mana Font was the first thing that I forgot to mention, or actually talk about. So fully restores MP, grants Astral Fire 3, Thunderhead, 3 Umbral Hearts, nullifies Astral Fire MP cost, increases for fire spells, and reduces MP cost for Flare by 1/3. Gives you Paradox as well. So basically, once you have done your opener for fire, cast Mana Font to basically do all over again. Now let's go over the AoE situation. Now, ultimately what you're going to do is basically be spamming flare and then flare star and then foul and such like that when you're doing your AoEs. So the first thing we're going to do, swift cast going into Blizzard 3, and then we're going to do freeze, and then we're going to switch over to high fire 2 to get into fire phase. Make sure you use paradox and high thunder 2 for AoE, and then you're going to do 2 flares, and then flare star, and then fire starter. Back to Blizzard 2, or high Blizzard 2, freeze, not going to do your thunder because it doesn't need to be applied yet, foul because that is up, switch over to high fire 2, high thunder 2 since it fell off, your paradox, back to flare, and basically that's your AoE situation when you reach level 100. Obviously you can still do the flare combo when you get the umbral hearts traits, so basically that is going to be your AoE situation. Other than that, it's basically Blizzard 2, Fire 2, Blizzard 2, Fire 2 if you just have those 2 spells. Alright, so now that we got all the base stuff out of the way, the first thing you're going to end up doing is you're going to do Swift Cast and then you're going to go into Blizzard 3. This is going to allow your fire phase to be able to do all 6 of your fire 4s, to get into Flare Star. And then make sure that you do your ley lines right after you cast Blizzard 3, I believe. Alright, so we go into Swift Cast, Blizzard 3, ley lines, Blizzard 4 to get your umbral hearts, switch over to Astral Fire, and then you're going to Rapid Fire, Fire 4, use your amplifier, you can spell Q if you like, and then you can do Xenoglassy and or Foul depending on which situation you're in. Flare Star, Paradox, Despair, and you got your Fire 3, Xenoglassy or Foul, and then Mana Font, and basically do everything all over again. I'll make sure you do your thunder as well, which I completely forgot. And now basically you're going to go back to doing ice. Make sure you do paradox every single time you do it. And now you're going to switch over to fire, triple cast, fire 4s. I think it is possible to get triple cast on your Flare Star. I think some people do it that way. But since it's just a beginner's guide, obviously, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, you just rinse and repeat until you're able to do basically your opener all over again, and of course, your ley lines. Okay, so basically that is Black Mage in a nutshell. I've seen so many Black Mages just doing things completely ass backwards. Some people just stay in Ice Phase and don't switch over to Fire Phase, which is called Ice Mages. And then you got people doing Thunder when Thunder doesn't really need to be reapplied, so on and so forth. And then some people don't even use their ley lines for that matter. I'm kind of guilty of that, so I can't really say I'm not guilty of that. But ultimately, that is Black Mage in a nutshell as of Dawn Trail, which is 7.3 where we're currently at. So hopefully this has been helpful, and hopefully this has taught you something about Black Mage. Like I said, I'm still a beginner. I just play this job casually, so if you need something more advanced, there are other YouTubers out there that probably can give you better advice than I could. Alright guys, so that's pretty much going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to check out the rest of my channel for more Final Fantasy XIV content, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you're new for more Final Fantasy XIV content and help with the YouTube algorithm. If you guys want to support my channel even further, consider becoming a YouTube member, Patreon supporter, or help me on Ko-Fi. The links for those will be in the description down below, as well as my Discord. And the extra special shout out to the members on screen. So until next time, may you forever walk in the glorious light of Lord Bahamut, and always remember to keep forging